morning and welcome to the show. Recently, Business Link Pacific had launched the second round of the Adaptation Grant, which is a grant aimed at helping micro, small, and medium enterprises in Fiji, especially during tough times. With us tonight, we've got two guests to discuss the second round of the Adaptation Grant, Mr. Ramesh Chand, who is the BLP Business Services Manager, and Ms. Jessica Gounder, the BLP Communications Officer. Bula, and welcome to the show tonight.
Hello,
Thank you.
Well, we'd like to start off today by discussing the fact that recently you had announced, this is just over the week, that the second round of the adaptation grant had been launched. Now, for those that are unaware, could you give us a background of this business adaptation grant?
Thank you. The business adaptation grant has been launched. The second round of the business adaptation grant has been launched last Sunday. And working in partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade for both Australia and New Zealand government, BLP has launched this second round of the business adaptation grant. The program facilitates access to capital for stabilization, recovery, and growth to viable but financially distressed SMEs due to COVID-19. This adaptation grant is available in Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, PNG, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga, and Vanuatu.
So if we were to look at the response of the adaptation grant, the first round of that, what was that like?
Thank you. The first round of the business adaptation grant was, it initially was opened in December, and it was open for a month. Business Link Pacific received a huge number of applications. It was in around 1,000 applications, out of which 430 were assessed, and 30% succeeded in the assessment process. Now, out of those assessed ones, what BLP is doing is now working with the local business advisory service providers in trying to validate and verify the information that were provided by the SMEs in the application. BLP is working with the local business advisors. A number of applications has been processed. Some have already been paid. The funds have already been transferred, while some are in the validation and verification process. One thing to note, though, is, like I said, when we received about 1,000 applications, more than half of that, around 500 applications plus, were in the draft form. So it was, people attempted to fill, but then they left it, or they did not submit it. So, that was a concern, and at this time we are encouraging SMEs to fully complete the application and submit.
So in terms of those that had succeeded and they were given their grants, could you give us an update as to what the business adaptation plan has been so far? Has there been any follow-ups with mentorship or other programs?
Yes, the normal follow-up and survey and monitoring process has been undertaken by BLP through its surveys. The areas where businesses applied for is usually purchase of equipments, purchase of stock. We also had applications where SMEs were trying to acquire a fixed asset like a vehicle or delivery vehicle, and the grant was used as a deposit, as an equity towards that particular loan.
So if we were to look at the necessity for, or the reason why the second round has been prompted, could you talk to us about how that came about?
Yes, sure. In fact, the Business Link Pacific conducted a survey in the region, and around 500 SMEs responded to the survey. Out of that, 43% respondents were from Fiji, and in the assessment or in the survey, one particular or the major concern or the area that was very clearly came out was the need for financial assistance. So, based on that assessment or the survey, the Business Link Pacific, with the support of MFET and DFET, launched this second round of business adaptation grant. We also noted that around 30% of the businesses found some sort of opportunities in this COVID situation to change their pivot their business and get into something new. So there has been, while there has been a shocking result in terms of SMEs suffering and looking for funds, we could also see there are some businesses which were able to use this situation to their advantage.
Now, you mentioned that survey where you said 43% of 500 respondents had said that they do need this. Looking at some data here that says that 84% of respondents said that they had seen a decrease in their business profitability, and that 54.4% had reached out for financial assistance provided by banks or other financial institutions. Now, given that currently we're in the midst of a second wave of COVID infections and businesses have either grinded to a halt or pretty much stopped completely in certain areas or sectors of the economy, what does this mean? What does this second round of the adaptation grant mean for those that may not be able to continue their business?
Well, when I said 43%, I meant that 43% of the respondents were from Fiji. Now, this adaptation grant is actually not focused on businesses who are on the verge of closure. We are trying to assist SMEs who are trying to pivot, trying to do something which is going to help them overcome this COVID situation, like engaging in online business, trying to get their online services improved, trying to buy equipments or fixed assets which is going to help them reach out to their customers. So those are the areas that we are focusing on, rather than those businesses who are on the verge of on closure.
Thank you for that. We'll be back with more after this break. Welcome back. So we were talking about the second round of the adaptation, business adaptation grant, but what I'd like to look at was in the first round, businesses that had been assisted with the first round of this particular business adaptation grant. Could we get into the specifics of the types of businesses or the sectors of the economy of the businesses that they were involved in? Majorly, which areas were they from?
Yeah, thank you. Like I mentioned earlier, quite a good number of applications are still to be validated and verified because of our lockdown. SMEs were unable to provide the documents for verification and validation. However, whatever number that we have already validated and verified and made a payment to, we could see that it's across the board. We have got service sectors that have been assisted. We have a few retail outlets who have been assisted. We have also assisted fisheries sector, manufacturing sector as well. So in fact, this business adaptation grant is not limited to any particular sector. Any sector, any person who is involved in any business here in Fiji is able to apply regardless of the sector, whether you are in tourism or in the agriculture, forest, fisheries, service, retail, transport, any sector. So basically, SMEs can apply.
Can we look at what type of funding is available for hopeful applicants?
Yeah, thank you. The funding is available in three categories. The first one is SMEs that are employing employees between 0 to 1 to 5 employees, and the grant that is available is up to New Zealand $5,000. The second category is where there are employees from 5 to 20, and the business grant that they can apply for is up to New Zealand $10,000. And for those businesses who are employing people between 20 and 50, they can apply for a grant of up to New Zealand $15,000. Now, when they are applying, they need to apply in Fijian dollars. So that is important thing that they need to understand. So those are the three different categories that the SMEs can apply.
Looking at the number of businesses that you have assisted in the past, would you be able to give me an idea as to which category or which type of funding they have received? Were there more that received the New Zealand $5,000, or were there more that fell towards the high end of $15,000?
So far, the number of applications that we've already released the funds for would be between 5 to 10,000 Fijian dollars.
I see. Well, let's look at the application process. As you said in the first segment that there were quite a number of applications that had come through that were either incomplete. Would we be able to go through the application process? Sometimes when people hear that there's a grant that's going to be given, the notion that is prevalent is that it's quite time consuming. There may be quite a lot of documentation that is needed, too many checks and balances, and therefore they tend to opt out of it. So let's look at the application process. What's that like?
Yeah, I think the one thing which the SMEs need to understand is that this is a grant, and any grant will go through a rigorous assessment process. And they need to, and the objective of this particular grant is, very clear that we need to support SMEs which are viable and are facing some financial distress and need assistance. So they need to understand that it is not for a startup at the moment. It is not for those who are wanting to get into a new, all of a sudden into a business. So the SMEs need to first go onto our website, businesslinkpacific.com/grants or businesslinkpacific.com, and then they choose SME Hub, and below SME Hub they'll find Business Adaptation Grant. Once they click that, then they will be asked to fill in their name, email address, and the password. Once they do that and submit, an email will be sent to their email which they have stated, the email address which they have stated, activation email to authenticate their email address. So once they receive that email, they need to activate the account. And once they activate the account, the BLP application form will open. In that BLP application form, there is a eligibility check. SMEs can also check before they move on to filling in the form. Now, the business eligibility, it would be good for know able to apply for a grant. The applicant business comply with the following: 1, be an existing business currently operating in Fiji. They must have all necessary registration in place. They need to have people less than 50, be in compliance with all tax requirements and payment obligations. They also be able to meet any loan obligation or adhering to an agreed payment plan. So if they are in default, then there should be a arrangement done between the banks and the SME. Not be subject to any bankruptcy proceedings. Not primarily trade in alcohol, drug, tobacco, gambling, firearms, or other harmful substances. Have up-to-date records and documentations to provide evidence of all the above that has been highlighted. They should not have any conflicting affiliation with DT Global or their national government or the New Zealand or Australian government. Disclosures can be made in the application form. Not have already received an adaptation grant or an adaptation grant is in the process. So those SMEs who have already applied in round 1 and have been considered and are in the process of being validated and verified or have received, they need not apply. So those ones are okay. Applications from businesses with at least 50% ownership by national citizens will be given preference. So those are some of the basic criteria which the SMEs need to see.
Jessica, we haven't heard much from you though. Being a communications officer, when you are communicating directly with businesses that may need some guidance, especially for those that may not be aware on how to go about getting a grant. Some may be applying for the first time. What's that like?
So if businesses are unaware about the checklist or the portal, because this is all online, businesses need to apply online, and if they need assistance, then they can always give us a call. If they go onto the BLP website, www.businesslinkpacific.com, they will be able to see the grant as well, and the link to the grant as well. And if they need further assistance, they can always contact Ramesh or myself. As you know that we are based at the FSF office, which is closed at the moment, but most of them just prefer calling us, and then we guide them through on the process and everything they need to know and understand when it comes to documentation.
Thank you for that. Stay with us. We'll be back with more after this break. Welcome back. So Mr. Chanda and Jessica, we were talking about the business adaptation grant. This is just to wrap things up with the application process. We've looked at the eligibility criteria. We've looked at funding. Let's look at the business documentation that needs to be provided.
Okay. Thank you. Initially, the businesses, they don't have to upload any documentation. So the information that is required in the application would be the basic information about the applicant, the business background, the registration numbers, the contact details, and then we have the area where the SMEs need to fill in the details about their past financial performance. What was their sales expenses in 2019 and 2020? And then the next area would be the business adaptation plan. So under business adaptation plan, they need to clearly state why they need that this particular grant funding, what is their plan, how they're going to implement the plan. So these need to be very clearly stated in the questions. When they are answering these questions, it needs to be very clearly spelled out, and because the points are given for each of these questions. So they need to fill that. Then they also need to state the impact that is going to have on the business and in the economy as a result of getting this funding. They also need to give us the projection, or what is the projected income in the next 2 years once this particular business adaptation plan is in place. So those are some key information that needs to be stated and clearly stated in the application. The applicants are requested not to leave any of the questions. If there are any questions which do not apply to them, they can just put down not applicable. But but they need to fully answer all the questions.
So it seems like it's quite condensed with the application's requirements, and of course this is absolutely necessary because this is not a loan, this is a grant, so you need to justify exactly why you need it. But can we take a look at how the applications will be processed or assessed? I noted that you had said that when you are filling out these applications, that you have to be quite concise and precise with your answers as points are given. Talk to us more about that.
Yeah, thank you. Before I answer that question, I think it is also important that SMEs, there is a question where it is asking, do you have a business adaptation plan? So if SMEs don't have a adaptation plan, then they can state in progress or no. However, once they go past the initial assessment, they will need to have the business adaptation plan. So while after completing and submitting their application, they need to work on their business adaptation plan. The process on how the application is assessed, once the once the application closes on 27th of July, BLP will go through the application. Those applications which are incomplete, have not been submitted, are in draft form, those applicants will be advised that their application has been unsuccessful. Now, those applications which have been fully completed and have been submitted then goes through a assessment process, and these are assessed by assessors who are based in New Zealand. So we have got, BLP has got a set of assessors there. Now they assess the applications and then it is peer reviewed by them as well. So that is done, then the SMEs which have gone past that stage are advised that the application has gone past the first round of assessment, and now they will be assigned a business advisor. So we have got a list of business advisors here in Fiji who are going to work on this project with BLP. So those successful SMEs are linked with these business advisors who are going to do the validation and verification of the information that was provided in the application, including looking at the business adaptation plan. So if the business adaptation plan needs improvement, then the business advisor will assist that particular business SME to improve the business adaptation plan. Now, once the business advisor receives all the information from the SME, they validate, they verify, they look into the business adaptation plan, and then they compile a report and submit it to Business Link Pacific. Once that is received by Business Link Pacific, the team relooks at the application with the report that has been provided by the business advisors, and then they make the final decision. Once the decision has been made and the applicant has been successful, they are contacted. The contracts are sent to them. They sign the contract and return it to Business Link Pacific. Once Business Link Pacific receives the signed agreement, then the funds are disbursed. Funds can be disbursed directly to the SMEs or paid to the suppliers. It is on a case-by-case basis. So that is the whole process as to how the application is assessed and the decision is made. Like I said, there are some delays because of the current COVID situation, but the Link Pacific team is consistently in touch with the SMEs. I also be in touch with the SMEs and keep following up with them in terms of helping them get the information to the business advisors, or if there is any consent from the business advisors. So as a business service manager, I try and assist the SMEs and the business advisors. So that is the whole process.
Like you said, of course, it needs to be quite stringent to be able to weed out those that may try to take advantage of situations like this, where grants that are being provided to businesses that do really need it needs to be done in a very sustainable manner. Now, you've mentioned that COVID has impacted services all around the country, and of course, Business Link Pacific services as well. But can we take a look at the number of applicants that were still left over from the first round, because the assessments are still pending? And as you're waiting for the second round of the adaptation grant applications to come in, how is that going to look in terms of turnaround time for the applications to be processed? Does it look like it's going to take a little bit of time, or do you expect things to be done fairly quickly for them?
In terms of the first round applications, I think the work that is required by Business Link Pacific has been completed. It is just the reports from the business advisors that needs to be submitted, and that is dependent on how soon the SMEs provide the information, including compliance letters from FRCS or FNPF, or the business registration documents from a registrar of companies. So the sooner the SMEs are able to provide it, the earlier business advisors would be able to provide the report. As far as the second round of the applications are concerned, like I said, there's a separate set of assessors who would go through the assessment process for these applications. So while BSMs business advisors are working on getting the validations and verification done, at the same time, on the close of the application on 27th of July, the assessors in New Zealand would start the work on the second round. And this time, BLP is trying to increase the number of business advisors. We have quite a huge number of business advisors already registered with the BLP. So because the first round was a pilot project, so we did not engage many business advisors. However, this time we'll be giving opportunity to other business advisors to work on this round 2 application. So I think the turnaround time this time would be fast.
Thank you for that. Stay with us. We'll be back with more after this break. Welcome back. So, Jessica and Mr. Chand, let's look at some of the other services that BLP provides. I had perused your website earlier, and it seems quite easy to navigate, quite a lot of information readily available to those that may not know how to go about filing out certain applications, or just may need some mentorship. Let's look at some of the other core services that BLP provides.
Yeah, thank you. Besides this business adaptation grant, which started off in December, and we are in the second round now. Since the inception of Business Link Pacific program, we have been focusing on business diagnosis and linking the SMEs to the service providers. So BLP has developed a online business health check, where SMEs can check the health of their business online. It's in the areas of business planning, whether they have a business plan, whether they have a business continuity plan, organizational structure, human resource management, financial management and accounting, standards, exports, marketing. So these are different areas where SMEs can check the health of their business online. And once they check the health, they would be able to identify which particular area they need improvement on. For instance, if they need to improve their marketing plan, if they need to have a website done, then we also have a list of service providers who provide those services. So they can then find the advisors on the by clicking the find an advisor button, and it will link them to the number of business advisors who are listed to service that particular area. I also conduct business diagnosis that is free. We conduct the business diagnosis and we give reports to SMEs and identify and recommend the areas where they need improvement. Now, again, once we identify those areas, they will be able to reach out to the business advisors, or we link them to the service providers. So again, like for instance, if someone needs a service of a accounting firm, then we provide them the list of service providers, and they then can go and discuss the scope of work, agree on the fees, and then engage that particular service provider. Now, to assist the SMEs, what we have done is we have also, Business Link Pacific has a subsidy program. So for instance, if a particular SME finds, sees that they need a website to be done, so they reach out to one of the service providers who develops the website or e-commerce platform for them. Then, because that particular service provider is to up of 50% to BLP. So if, for instance, the cost is $3,000, then the business will be able to apply subsidy of up to 1,500 to BLP. We will look the 50% or 30%. No, and then it goes back to the business advisor. The advisor relays that message to the SME, and we also copy the email to the SME. They agree that they are satisfied with the percentage with which BLP is paying. Then the business provider completes the work for them. The SME pays their share, and then the service provider returns the invoice to BLP, and the difference or the balance is paid by BLP to the service provider. So that is how this subsidy and the diagnosis business health check works.
If I could just pick on one of the things that you had mentioned, this was about the business advisors. Now, of course, this seems like a wonderful thing to be able to link SMEs to those who may be able to help them flourish, if not, possibly get better help in trying to diversify their services or whatever projects that they may be undertaking. Jessica, if we could look at the assessment or the vetting of some of these business advisors, how do you bring in and how do you say that, okay, so-and-so has applied to be or wants to be a business advisor, and we are going to verify that and then put them in touch with SMEs that would like to be contacting them directly?
I'll probably explain that. So what happens is, like I said, we have a platform of service providers. So if any particular service provider in the area of accounting, marketing, finance, or standards, any area, if they want to be partner to Business Link Pacific, then they need to go onto our website, register as a service provider. So once register as a service provider, they will be able to upload their profile. Once they upload their profile, they will select which particular area they want to provide the service in. For instance, if someone says that I want to provide the service in financial management and accounting, they will choose accounting, and then BLP sends them a competency assessment form. Now, these business advisors then have to fill in the business competency assessment form, which has basic information about the applicant. It has the names. We need the names of the referees, the qualification, and then there are 4 or 5 questions trying to test the competency of that particular applicant. So they fill in that competency application, competency assessment form, and they submit it. Our consultants or experts in each of those different sectors, areas, they assess that competency assessment form. And once they assess, they are satisfied, then that particular service provider becomes BLP approved service provider, and they will be able to apply for subsidy. So that is how the advisors are roped into the BLP platform. Now we were having discussions a few weeks back with the RBF team and some of the experts, and one area that they have made is particularly finance, and we have seen that there are a lot of SMEs looking for funds, and we know banks have money, but banks are a bit reluctant to release the funds because of the currency situation and the ability to see the ability for the SMEs to repay the loan. And for that, they need to have a proper financing proposal. And this is one area which BLP can assist. And so if there is a SME besides these grants, if they want to get loan from any of the commercial banks, then if they need to get a proper financing proposal done, we will be able to link them to the service providers that we have, and we will be able to assist them by subsidizing part of the service fee. So that is very important.
Thank you for that. We'll be back with more with our final segment after this break. Welcome back. Mr. Chand and Jessica, we're down to our final segment now, and I had noticed that under the services that BLP provides, there was one that really piqued my interest. This is about gender equality, and there's so much more to it that I would love to ask about, but I'd like to ask you to explain why BLP has decided to focus on that particular segment.
Thank you. Gender equality, social inclusion is part of Business Link Pacific program, and besides, you talk about any NGO or any organization, they are focused or try to assist the vulnerables, particularly people with disabilities, women entrepreneurs, youth entrepreneurs. So BLP is different. So under this gender equality, social inclusion program, what BLP does is, if there is any business which is owned by women entrepreneur or youth or a person with a disability or even an indigenous owner, we are able to subsidize up to 70% of the service fee. So, previously I mentioned 50%. So at this time, if there is any service that should be performed by the business service providers approved by Business Link Pacific, they will be able to apply for subsidy of up to 70%. We also have a Women Entrepreneurs Business Council as our partner, and Fiji Women Rights Movement. So Women Entrepreneurs Business Council, they have got women members, and if any of their members are willing to engage with one of the business advisors, they will be able to apply for a higher subsidy. Women Entrepreneurs Business Council also organizes training, which is co-funded by BLP. So we support Women Entrepreneurs Business Council in organizing training, and we will continue to assist them by subsidizing the cost of organizing the training. There are some business advisors who are members of Women Entrepreneurs Business Council. So if they organize a training, we will be able to support them. For Fiji Women Rights Movement, they are our approved partners, and they focus on basic sexual harassment and workplace, discriminations amongst women entrepreneurs and employees. And if they need to get a sexual harassment policy done for a particular business, then they will be able to, SMEs will be able to approach them, and they will be able to apply for subsidy to BLP to pay for the service which they're going to render to the SMEs. So under the Gender Equality Social Inclusion Program, we try and support women, youth, and people with disabilities as much as possible. We're also trying to get women in business on board. So if they are on board, then they will be also be able to provide the same services which Women Entrepreneurs Business Council and Fiji Women Rights Movement is providing.
Looking at the current situation in the country, we've seen that quite a number of businesses have had to close down. There are people who used to be part of businesses that are now trying to look for self-employment, and they may need maybe some help in terms of trying to put together a business plan and also business adaptation plan. So for an SME or someone who is wishing to start off to join or to create an SME and then further access BLP's services, how do they go about doing that? Are they going to have to pay for services that BLP provides, or is it available only online? What are the medians?
Like I said, the whole Business Link Pacific program is more for existing business. Nevertheless, whenever a person intending to start up a business has approached us, we have always tried to assist them with whatever advice that I can provide them with, or we try and link them to the business service providers who are our partners. So we link them. I can give an example. We recently, just yesterday, I received an email from a Itoki applicant or client who intends to get into a business while he may not be able to apply for the grant or may not apply for the subsidy. But what I have done is I have linked him up with the service providers, and those service providers, we have various levels of service providers, particularly those service providers who can assist him at a reasonable price. So we keep linking these people with the service providers, whether they are existing or want to get into business.
For those that wish to contact BLP, do they have to pay for a service fee, or are they able to access your services free online?
No, it's all our services are free. All the services in Fiji. This particular program is implemented through Fiji Commerce and Employers Federation. Our office is at Gori Street. So people can reach us through emails, phone contacts, or can come. At the moment, the office is closed, but we try and reach out to them, through emails and phones. So people can, easily get our services. It's all free, and thanks to New Zealand government for supporting, this Business Link Pacific program and assisting SMEs.
As a final question before we wrap up this show, shall we look at the challenges posed by COVID? Of course, it's affected everyone greatly, most especially SMEs. Let's look at why it's so important right now for those that are currently trying to get back on track or to form some semblance of normalcy to apply for the second round of the adaptation grant.
Like I mentioned, and the survey has revealed, and everybody knows at the moment, particularly small and medium enterprises are being severely affected. They are closed because majority of them are not essential businesses, and most of these businesses, have to pay rent. While BLP may not support them by paying rent, but this is where this business adaptation plan can come and grant can come in play and assist them in other areas, like buying, purchasing stock or purchasing equipment which is going to support them start operating or reach out to, in a way, reach out to their customers. For instance, buy vehicles to do deliveries or something of that sort. So it is a tune time for SMEs to tap on this business adaptation grant. And let me say that while the overall or total funding may not be much, I think it's around close to $3 million, but it is divided amongst other countries. And based on the demand, the program the supporters or the partners may reopen for the third time. Who knows? So I would encourage SMEs to apply, and if they need the assistance and they know that they fall within the, they encourage to apply.
Thank you very much for your time today, Jessica, and also Mr. Chand. For those that are watching, if you are willing or you are trying to get yourself into this second round of the Business Adaptation Grants, we'd like to give you the link where you can go and check this out. This is the BLP website, finance.businesslinkpacific.com/adaptation grants. And that's all we have for you today. Stay safe.